Hello and welcome to the mains PYQ discussion by Neva EAs. This is a question from the 2022 prelims and it deals with two major empires of India. One is Guptas, one is Cholas. The question goes like this. Discuss the main contributions of Gupta period and Chola period to Indian Indian heritage and culture. Now the difficulty with this question is both Guptas and Cholas were prominent empires with contributions in every field. So content competence of this question is very important if you are to answer this. You have to bring in very specific examples and clear dimensions. It's a 15 marker. The way we have started it is by placing Guptas and Cholas in their right temporal and spatial context. Guptas belong to the time period from 3rd century to 6th century AD, whereas Cholas belong to the time period from 9th century to 13th century. Guptas rule over the northern and eastern part of India without much penetration in the southwest region, whereas Cholas, on the other hand, had their presence not just in South India but beyond that as well. When you mark the map of Cholas, as we have given it here, you have to mark it beyond the Indian subcontinent as well. You can mark these areas because this is one empire that is known for its outside Indian naval expeditions. So bring these things in the introduction and the map so your value addition in the initial part will be safe. Then we'll move to the body part. In the body, the way we have structured it is in a fourfold way. We have chosen 4 dimensions to mark Indian heritage and culture. One is art and culture, second sculptures, third literature, and fourth science and education. Within these 4 dimensions, we have placed 1 point each for Gupta and Chola. So we'll give a significant contribution that they made in this domain with an example. In each domain, we are doing this. So the first thing, art and architecture. The major contribution of Guptas in this domain is the Nagara style of architecture, in which a whole lot of temples have been constructed in the times to come in northern part of India. The most famous example from the Gupta period is the Dashavatara temple. In the Cholas, the same thing happens, the Dravida style of architecture. It is an extension. It's not an original invention of the Cholas. It's an extension from the Pallava period, but it flourished or reached its peak during the Chola period. The greatest example is the Brihadeshwara temple in Tanjavur. When it comes to sculptures, we know that in sculptural tradition, the Gandhara and Madura school is very well known. It flourished during the reign of Kanishka in 1st century BC. From there, a new tradition emerges called the Saranath school. It has more inclination towards the Madura school of art. And this tradition flourishes during the Gupta period. So we can ascribe it to the Gupta period. And when it comes to the Chola period, the most famous sculpture is the rounded sculpture with an arch of the Nadaraja. It is still relevant in Indian culture. Everywhere you see a classical dance performance, you will see Nadaraja sculpture associated with it. It has its origins in the Chola period. So we will have to mark that example and this importance that they gave to the bone sculpture tradition. The third is with respect to literature. Here you can have more than 1 point because Chandragupta too maintained a court with 9 jewels and one of them is Kalidasa. You can bring in anyone like Amarasimha, anyone you can give them in this part because we have balanced it out with one example and one dimension each. That's why we chose Kalidasa and Sanskrit literature. You have the liberation to increase it depending on your discretion. So the terms contributions to Sanskrit literature has to come against Gupta. When it comes to Chola, it is the promotion of Tamil literature. And one example would be the development of Kamba Ramayana. It is the most famous version of Ramayana in Tamil Nadu region. So that should come in the Chola part. Now, science and education, the last part, the most famous name we can associate is Aryabhatta. We have both universities and scholars. So Kumaragupta established the Takshila University. So that has to come here. Then the scholars like Aryabhatta should also come. Then finally, Cholas. Their excellence in the field of science and education, we don't have anything specific in education. What we will give is their craftsmanship in terms of shipbuilding. So it is their craftsmanship in shipbuilding that led to these expeditions through the sea. So we'll give that point as well. So almost all the major points related to Cholas and Guptas are covered in this structure. We'll give them. And in the conclusion, we will give the argument of the nationalist historians, which is when colonial historians rejected India's past as changeless nationalist historians use the Chola and Gupta period to highlight the golden past of India. So we'll conclude it like this, and a 15-mark question will be end to end covered with such a structure. Thank you for listening.